In today's video, we find ourselves in a dimly lit kitchen. It only has one window letting in natural light, so without artificial lighting, it is pretty dark. At night, it's even darker, which creates a problem for the residents when they come in from the garage and are trying to find the light switch. Thanks to the Home Depot Seeds program, I can propose the Leviton LED lighted switch. It is a single pole switch, model number L1461-C. But why use a LED lighted switch when the old ones work just fine? Well, the problem with the old ones is that in today's use of LED and CLF bulbs, the switches tend to flicker. This is an issue that does not exist with the new LED illuminated light switches. Unboxing reveals one single pole switch with a clear switch on the front, two side terminals, and because it's single pole, doesn't matter which side the load goes on, and a ground screw, making installation fairly easy. You're going to need a new cover, or you could reuse your existing cover if it matches your decor. Instructions are not on the outside and aren't included as a sheet, but instead are printed on the inside of the box. So you'll have to tear open the box to read their recommended installation method. First thing we need to do is turn off the circuit that controls that light switch. Again, with this being a dim kitchen, I had to bring in a work light, and I was fortunate enough that the outlets are on a separate circuit from the light switch. So we have light to work with. We'll start by removing the two screws on the wall plate and then putting them into a container so I don't lose them. We use a 3/8 screwdriver to pull off the two screws holding the cover plate in place. These may be plastic or metal screws depending on who makes them. Then we pull the plate off. This one has a bit of insulation. Be careful, especially if it's painted, that you'll want to use a utility knife to just cut around the paint so that it doesn't damage the paint. So now we have two screws. We're going to remove those, and then we can pull out the light switch. And again, the same warning, if this has been painted in, then you may want to just score around it so that you're not tearing off any plaster or paint or wallpaper. Usually these don't come out. Like this one, it just stays in place. Now we can pull this forward and inspect our wiring. One of the first things you're going to need to do is just to verify that, of course, we don't have lights because I threw the circuit breaker. So you're pretty sure that there's no electricity going through this, but we don't know if there's a hot wire traveling through here that's on a different circuit. Remember, as I said, the outlets are in a separate circuit, but they may travel through here depending on who did the wiring. So I get my little pen probe, and first I check, nothing here, nothing here. I go poking through the wiring, through the rest, and it seems that we are okay to work in this box. There is no power. After pulling the switch out, we inspect what's going on in here, and I noticed that my ground wire is actually tied together in a bundle here where it's been crimped together. But they did wrap it around the screw in the back. So what I'm going to do, since I do want to utilize the ground screw on this device, is I'm going to use some flexible grounding wire attached to here and to that back screw. Your installation, of course, will vary. Ideally, you'd have a piece of ground going to the switch, but because this is a very old switch, probably 1968, it does not include a ground. With the grounding issue resolved, I'm ready to take the screw off both sides and we can get rid of this switch. You could snip off the wires, but if I can salvage the loop that's already been created for them, I'll do that and just repurpose them. With the switch off, you'll notice that there's one wire that goes on either side, which means one is curled up and one is curled down, whereas on this new switch, both wires go on the same direction. Orientation for this switch should be lettering up so that the off position is down, on is up. And so we're going to have to set our wires so that they wrap clockwise around each of the screws. If you do it counterclockwise, like this, then as you tighten the screw, it's just going to loosen up on you. So you want to have the wire wrapped in the same direction that you're going to be turning the screw. And normally I will connect ground first, just to get that out of the way. It's sort of a safety precaution thing. And if I had a neutral, I would do that next. But in this case, both of these are black as the current's just passing through, so it doesn't matter which one we connect next. With the wire wrapped around, we grab our number 2 Phillips and we just tighten it up. And you want to apply a little bit of pressure on this because you want to make sure this never comes off on its own. And now we're going to do the same thing. We're just going to wrap it around. And you may have to open up the hook a little bit to get it to catch. And sometimes when I do that, I'll find that it's a little bit too spread out. So I will come in here and just pull the end back in so that it's underneath the screw. Okay, so at this point, we have ground attached, we have our power going through the switch, and all we have to do is get all this wiring back inside. And the best way to do that is an accordion style, where you fold the wire onto itself, or maybe like an N, and that'll get you the maximum wire into the space, because some of these boxes are pretty small. And while this switch isn't bigger than the one it replaced, it's still, since you've moved stuff out and it's rather thick gauge, it doesn't want to always necessarily go back in nice and easy. So just fold the wires and then just push them in. So you see I'm pushing down, then here I'm introducing another turn. What you don't want to do is you don't want to start jabbing in there with pointed tools because you can damage the insulation. Then that creates another set of problems that you're going to have to deal with. Although you can use like the blunt end of a lineman's plier just to give you that little extra push to get stuff back in there, especially like this ground wire, which is really thick. And I'm just trying to get that back into the corner, out of the way, so that the flexible wires can just move in there nice and easy. And make sure your ground wire doesn't touch any of your screw heads. And if you feel like it might be necessary, sometimes I'll wrap around electrical tape that protects the screw heads from contacting anything. If you find it's a struggle to get the box in, then pull the box back out, restuff your wires. Sometimes they just need to be pushed off to the side so that they can create more room for the rest of the switch. and then start driving in your box screw top and bottom. Try to do a little bit for each one so that you don't drive just one all the way in. That'll apply even pressure, keep things from bending. Plus, you see how you can adjust this? So you have a little bit of play because walls aren't level, plates aren't level. So that'll help you make the adjustment, and it'll also help you see if things are a little askew and you have to make some slight adjustments. But in theory, you should be able to tighten these screws and it should lay flat. With the switch in position, we put back their little weather gasket. I'm going to reuse the old plate because this is a transparent switch. So the old cover matches the adjoining cover, and the rest of the cover's in the kitchen. And I think the homeowner would appreciate that versus going with a different look. Of course, you can put any cover that you want, any color cover that you'd like, but I like going back and just making sure things match up. So I'm reusing the original screws. They're a nylon, so they don't take too much torque. And basically you just want it snug. And if you can, I like getting the screw heads so that they're facing in the same direction. So, vertical. All right, it's time to go back to the circuit breaker and see if we've had any success. Back in the kitchen, we see the light is on. So let's see what happens when we turn off the light switch. You get a soft blue, doesn't look white to me, LED light. Note how the LED lighted switch does not flicker even though it's connected to LED lights, unlike the old-fashioned lighted switch. Back in our darkened kitchen, you can easily find the light switch now that it emits its own light. If you found this video interesting or useful, give us a thumbs up, leave us a comment, join the subscription team, and as always, thank you ever so much for watching.